Hello folks, okay, we are going to do the first chapter of Trip Across the Pond. Try to get as much in, we have to limit our video time. Thank you. This is Bait for the Enemy. The first day out, and we reached our lugger position in the evening as scheduled. I was tired and dripping wet from perspiration. From late in the morning on, that day had registered a temperature not less than 124 degrees. There were plenty of trees there that would provide some comfort, though none were close to me. The ground was flat, then it stretched to some rolling hills and joined a tree line that led into a jungle. There was 127 of us men, and we were in the middle of nowhere. There were no friendly forces within 3,000 meters. We immediately formed a circular perimeter, and the front line men began to dig foxholes respectively. The captain, artillery officer, and radio telephone operator, first sergeant, junior radio telephone operators, and I set up at the center of the perimeter. The radio telephone operators, including me, dug necessary foxholes and filled the sandbags as usual. I asked myself, what the hell are we doing here? And those familiar thoughts came again. We're bait for the enemy. There came that eerie sensation that I had experienced before, like placing a trap as bait and waiting for the predators to attack, being helpless. Perhaps those thoughts were a bit more intensified as I was closer to coming home. I had much sympathy for the men in Bravo Company when they came under attack by the 2,500 North Viet Cong regulars mentioned earlier. We had learned that the area we were occupying had many tunnels, and we were probably sitting on one. Stationed in the middle of the perimeter sometimes gave some comfort. However, realizing a tunnel could be underneath us made for little sleep or rest. Night came to greet us. It was so fucking dark. You could hold a hand up 12 inches in front of you and not be able to see it. After putting up the hammock, the roof, and making sure the junior radio telephone operators were in line, it was time to kick back in the hammock with one eye closed and the other eye scanning the area. Seemed like a few minutes and it was time for me to take a radio watch. Keeping a cigarette lit and closing it in my hand, I periodically held the cigarette over my wristwatch. The time was 20 minutes to the hour. Time to get a sit rep from each platoon. Using the company radio, I began to call, and when calling the 3rd platoon, there was no reply. Fuck! I bet that sons of a bitch is asleep. I became pissed. I tried again. Delta 3, Delta 6 X-ray, over. Delta 3, Delta 6 X-ray, over. Even though I was not speaking much over a whisper, damn, it was obvious that bastard was asleep. Down on my hands and knees, I crawled out to the perimeter, approximately 100 meters, thinking later, it seemed amazing to me that not having been there before, I had crawled right to the position where that asshole was laying on a hammock, asleep. Perhaps inside me there was a typical homing device. Carefully and with precision, I reached the hammock close to where his head lay and shook it masterfully. His voice quivered. With much strength, sureness, and confidence, the words came quietly, effortlessly out of my mouth. When I call you from now on and you don't answer, I'm going to kill you. Nothing else was said by either person, for it was clear that the law had been laid down, and I left as I came. 2 days later, our brigade commander came in as Snoopy. Captain Caldwell got in, and they left temporarily. We had a patrol out walking around to see if they could get some shit going, and sure enough, they did. Charlie had them pinned down good. The 2nd lieutenant, who was in charge, fresh from the States, was experiencing his first encounter, and he was losing it. His first encounter, and he was blowing the hell out of it. The 2nd lieutenant was on the horn, full of panic, fear, and yelling out of pure desperation, making a complete asshole out of himself. What the hell? He was human. It was not every day you got your ass shot at, and so close that you could not move. He was yelling for artillery, among other things. I attempted to calm him by assuring him that everything possible was being done. Then I turned over the command to the highest ranking officer. The rule is, when a captain leaves or is killed, the captain's radio telephone operator is in command. The radio telephone operator then puts the next highest ranking officer in command. The artillery having little effect as usual, Charlie getting bored with the situation, stopped firing and let their prey go. Once the patrol was back at the campsite, the second lieutenant came to me as a man much different from when he left earlier and apologized for his behavior. The apology was generously accepted as I understood well of the condition. That was excitement during the 5 days we were there. The remainder of the time was calm. Tired and dirty, we would head back for Camp Vernier with the refreshing thoughts of a good shit, shower, and a shave. Preparing to leave, I wrote out the thoughts from the subconscious and relived the time spent in San Mateo, California. I had been working at a gourmet store in San Mateo, California, and serving lunch at the Bombay Bicycle Riding Club in a next-door town named Burlingame. I worked 3 nights a week as a janitor upstairs above the gourmet store. Also, I was attending the College of San Mateo, day and 3 classes at night, 1 class each evening. Downtown San Mateo, I had rented a room. It had a bed, a light bulb, and the bath was communal down the hall. All of that for $12 a week. Not having a car did not present a problem getting back and forth to school. There were several salespersons upstairs above the gourmet store who would give me a ride. However, when leaving 2 out of the 3 evenings, the last bus to arrive left 15 minutes before the class let out. Too proud to ask or make a friend, impose on them, or whatever, I would make the journey after class walking down the hill to San Mateo. Not much, more than a mile. Tired of the working environment created, I saw the need to redirect this south. I quit the gourmet store and found a job working as a silk screener, something I'd never done before. We manufactured circuit boards, and then there was no such thing as microchips. They paid minimum wage, $1.80 an hour, and anything over 40 hours was overtime. Even so, a check for $76 was what I averaged per week. After a few weeks, I had not met a person who started to work there. He let me know that he was looking for a place to lay down once in a while. He mentioned that he had to get out of the place he was residing. I told him the condition that I was in, and there it was. We became roommates. He looked to me like a mouse. That is the name I gave him. Mouse told me that he paid to get the job, and I thought, gee, holy garbuckle, why the hell did you pay someone to get this piece of shit, I said. Why the hell did you pay someone to get this piece of shit? I was desperate, Mouse replied. Mouse was all of 18, and it became obvious that he wanted me to know that he was a real, genuine salesperson. When we went to look for an apartment, Mouse reported that he would do all the talking. He knew exactly what to say. A smile ran across my face. Mouse and I rented a new 2-bedroom duplex for the sum of $150 a month, first and last month up front. We would pay the last month's rent and payments over the next 2 months. Mouse had many friends, and the duplex became crowded many nights. Of course, there were 5 of us that became exceptionally good friends. Fortunately, I could pass for the chronological age of 21 at the liquor store located in a small shopping center across the street. My friend looked at me as their savior. We had a party one night. I'm being modest. We had a party every night. And the next day, everyone went to Santa Cruz except Mike, one of the 5, and me. We told everyone we would stick around the place and clean up, and then we would be down later. Mike and I were intoxicated to a degree from the evening before, and that morning we began drinking again. We were on a roll, feeling no pain, and we soon were out of things to drink. I told Mike I'd go over to the liquor store and pick up some refreshments. Earlier, when working at the gourmet store, I had purchased a 1959 Pontiac, made in Canada, from a salesperson who worked upstairs above the gourmet store. It had rotted from the salt on the roads. The trunk floor had rotted away completely, and the floor in the back was rotted also. However, it ran, and with the driver's seat, the top part laying back a few inches, it seemed funny to drive. It was a beautiful sunny day, and the sun engulfed me as I drove over and into the lot where the liquor store was located. Driving around to the side of the liquor store building, I observed the usual blocks of concrete for tires to roll against. The concrete blocks would keep people from driving into the wall. Thinking to the south, I thought, why put on the brakes? Let the tires roll up against the concrete block, thus stopping the car. It so happened the tires straddled the concrete block perfectly and crashed. The car slammed into the wall of the liquor store. A man beginning to unlock his car, perhaps 30 feet from where my car and I sat, had turned around after the sound of my car hitting the wall. He gave me an expression of complete confusion. A short, fat man of medium height, gray-white hair, bald atop, came from around the corner with a look of total confusion. "Did you just hit the wall?" he asked as I managed to get outside of my car. "Seems that I might have been what happened," I replied. "Well, I will have to call the police." I thought, police? Wait a minute. Can we work something out? "No, I'll have to call the police." Soon a police officer riding a motorcycle came. The man at the liquor store proceeded to inform the officer of the current event. The officer told the man that he would have to settle with me as it happened on private property. The man kept insisting on the officer taking a report. Finally, the officer told the man okay. I kept a safe distance and looked the other way when asked a question. Mike came walking up to where I stood. He looked confused and seemingly concerned. "Tom, what's happening? Are you all right?" "Sure, Mike. No problem. Stick around." After the police officer left, Mike and I walked inside the liquor store and observed the damage, a pitiful sight. There were bottles of whiskey sitting on the shelves and laying on the floor and that were broken. Some bottles were okay other than the seals that come loose from whiskey spilling on them. When I asked the man if I could have those bottles, as I would be paying for them, he quickly reported no. The man began to clean up. He told me that he would give the report made out by the officer to the owner and the owner would get in touch with me. The result was I had to make payments. When falling behind once, a letter of threat was sent to me from the owner. Going into the liquor store one day, there was another person who worked there that I had purchased much alcohol from in the past. He learned from our conversation that I was the person that ran into the wall. I told him about the letter sent to me from the owner. That person immediately informed the owner that I was the #1 buyer there, and from that time on, when I walked in, the proverbial red carpet was laid out for me. Further, the people who worked there were telling everyone who came in about the person that ran into the wall. After coming back from service in the Army 2 years later, the people working at that liquor store were telling people who came in the story about you-know-who. Dale joined the Air Force, Mike joined the Army, and Mike C. was already in the Air Force. A short time later, Mouse got drafted into the Army, then Randy and Dennis joined the Army under the Buddy program. There was virtually no one left other than me. Thinking to myself, I thought, what the hell? They may as well take me. I sent my address back to the town where I was born and partly raised. Quicker than a wink, a letter was sent back to me. It instructed me to come back there and take a physical. They did not seem sensible to go back there for only a physical, so I managed to get this self assigned to the draft board in San Mateo. They sent me for a physical in Oakland, California. The United States Army liked me enough to let me know I belonged to them. And guess where they were going? San Mateo County had drafted some 20,000 men that month of April 1966. Being chronologically 21 then, the world looked as if it was opening for me. I'd quit my one job and started another that showed more of a promise. The night before I was to leave for the Army, a good friend and I went to San Francisco. My friend and I partied the entire evening, raising hell, etc. We observed some men working in a deep hole in the street early that morning, and my friend and I threw some rocks at them, then ran like hell. Time well spent, we left for the draft board in San Mateo. It was 26th of April. Bidding farewell to my friend, I got on a bus. The bus left for Oakland. The group of us became sworn in, then we got on the bus again and left for Fort Ord, Monterey, California. Hey folks, catch the next video for the next chapter, Fort Ord to Fort Riley. Thank you.